Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
Who is it that has the Premier's ear in terms of locking down millions of people?
I know Doug. I respect Doug. The problem is that he's afraid. He's afraid of making the bad decision. And like he said today at his 1 o'clock press release, last week I was saying we should close down and everybody was attacking me. This week I closed down and all the small businesses are attacking me. He can't win. He's damned if he does and he's damned if he doesn't. And so I guess when you're an elected official, now not all elected officials, but when you're an elected official, you want to cover yourself. And it's better to err on the side of caution and say, lock it down. That way, if people die, I did everything I could. But if I keep it open and somebody dies, then I'm responsible. And they don't want to take that hit.
David Menzies for Rebel News here in Toronto. And folks, before I get to my story today, if you can, please go to journalistdefensefund.com. Sometimes we need lawyers, sometimes we need bodyguards, but it's worth it when it comes to telling you the other side of the story. Well, I'm with the Deputy Mayor of Richmond Hill and a York Regional Councillor, Carmine Pirelli. You might remember Carmine from about a month ago. We did a story about when York Region was going back into a lockdown stage and suddenly bingo parlors and fitness facilities, they were off limits. Well, as of Monday midnight, the City of Toronto and Peel region went into what's now known as the gray zone. That means everything's locked down again, like it was in stage 1 going back to March. York region, where Carmine is a representative, that was supposed to go into the gray zone as well. But at the 11th hour, Premier Doug Ford had a change of heart. So Carmine, first of all, I guess you're happy that York region isn't in the misery of the City of Toronto. Here's a mall just before Christmas and it's Deadsville because it's locked down. What was it, I guess, that you did that prevented York region from going into the gray zone?
Well, thank you, David, for the opportunity. But once we did our interview about a month ago, I think Dr. Kurji was listening.
And Dr. Kurji is the
medical officer of health for York Region.
Okay.
And I say he was listening, I said, because, you know, the elected officials put all the weight of this pandemic on the medical science. One man is supposed to guide us through this whole pandemic, where I say the job of the medical officer of health is to give us the facts, the science itself. And we're supposed to take that science and implement it as one of the components in order to get us through this pandemic. Yeah. He was listening. I fought very hard after our interview to make sure that York Region didn't go into not a gray zone, a lockdown, a phase 1 or 2. As a matter of fact, I don't even want it in a red zone. I think we should be open. And I think because Dr. Kurji felt that he had at least one voice of reason on regional council, that he decided to be a little bit more honest and open and come out with keeping us in the red zone for the time being.
But how was it that you were able to, I guess, convince Dr. Kurji that this was the right way to go?
Well, you know, I think when you are the voice of reason, that people actually listen. I'm hoping that at some point they'll actually join with me and start to move recommendations or resolutions that will be good for our economy and the health of our people. And I'm talking about mental health of our people. And most importantly, our economy. Because, you know, the lives that are lost, like I said before, David, one life is one too many. But the reality is that in this case, the cure is worse than the disease.
When you look at the numbers per capita, York Region versus City of Toronto, York Region actually has a higher virus contamination rate than City of Toronto, but it's City of Toronto in lockdown, whereas York Region, just a tad north of us, is open for business. What gives?
You're absolutely right, David. Most recently, the stats are that we're either at par with the City of Toronto and Peel, or today the results are we're much worse than the City of Toronto. But yet you're right, we're not in lockdown, we're in the red zone. Look, gray zone and red zone are both making me very blue. I said, in terms of depressed, because to watch this decimation of our economy for absolutely no reason. There's absolutely no reason that we need to be in lockdown or red zone. See, the question that no one's asking, David, and I have to say this, I hear every day the rate of contamination the virus has, the rate of death, how many vaccines we're working on, but I haven't heard one peep about the treatment. All over the world, I hear the success rate of hydrochloroquine, remdesivir, and other drugs that were used to save the life potentially of the President of the United States. Yeah. And yet, here in Canada, I don't hear a word about treatment. And I want to know about treatment. All that money we're spending to pay landlords and restaurateurs for rent and property taxes and maintenance, that doesn't put money in their pocket so they can go shopping. Of course, there's nowhere to go shopping because everything's closed. Yeah. I said, this is terrible for the economy. What they should be spending that money on, and I've been touting this right from the beginning, is on treatments, hospital equipment, ventilators, whatever it is that can help people get better, while at the same time working on vaccines. Absolutely. But this lockdown stuff, waiting for this miraculous vaccine to stop us and not doing anything. They're not even talking about a treatment. Not even talking about it. Tell me, does it work? Does hydroxychloroquine work? Why does it work? Why doesn't it work? Is it too expensive? Is it unattainable? Tell me this information, but I'm not getting any information. What I hear is 11 people in a restaurant, the virus goes crazy. 10 people, it's okay.
Yeah, that's a good point too. These arbitrary numbers, and I want to ask you,
Sorry
Carmine.
I'm being animated here, but this really bothers me, David.
No, and it bothers a lot of people. I mean, it bothers people to the point, I think, Carmine, that what have we seen? Rates of depression, suicide, spousal abuse, right off the charts, thanks to the predicament people are in from an economic standpoint. And I want to ask you, Carmine, where do you think Premier Ford is getting his medical/scientific advice? He says that's what's predicating his decisions. We know even the World Health Organization a month ago came out saying locking down the economy is not the way to go. The WHO itself said that. So who is it that has the Premier's ear in terms of locking down millions of people?
I know Doug. I respect Doug. The problem is that he's afraid. He's afraid of making the bad decision. And like he said today at his 1 o'clock press release, last week I was saying we should close down and everybody was attacking me. This week I closed down and all the small businesses are attacking me. He can't win. He's damned if he does and he's damned if he doesn't. And so I guess when you're an elected official, now not all elected officials, but when you're an elected official, you want to cover yourself. And it's better to err on the side of caution and say, lock it down. That way, if people die, I did everything I could. But if I keep it open and somebody dies, then I'm responsible. And they don't want to take that hit.
So is this a polite way of saying that Doug Ford and others, they're subscribing to CYA, cover your ass? They don't want to be blamed for any potential spike in infections, deaths, what have you. So they're playing it super safe by locking the economy down.
You said it. You're not going to get an argument from me.
Okay, then. Well, Carmine, it's certainly a victory for your camp in terms of getting York Region out of the out of any potential gray zone. And you know what, folks? I just want to show you, for those who are not familiar with the Greater Toronto area, I want to show you where the City of Toronto ends and where York Region begins. In fact, we're going to walk all the way to York Region from the City of Toronto. Did you pack a lunch, Carmine?
I did. I got my passport ready to go as well.
Okay. So we're gonna walk right now to the border of the City of Toronto, and then we're gonna walk to York Region. You won't believe the distance, folks. So that's it, folks. I counted about 30 paces. We are now in York Region, which is the north side of Seals Avenue. And as you can see, here's some shops today: sportswear, beauty supply, printing center, all of which are open. Whereas if you cross the street, The entire Centrepoint Mall under lockdown. You know, Carmine, this is one heck of a super intelligent virus. It actually obeys the boundary, so it doesn't cross over to York Region. Is that how it works? I mean, how does it have a built-in GPS or something?
Well, I know you're trying to make a little bit of light of this, but the reality is, I asked this question. I asked our medical officer of health, how does the virus know what time it is? Because magically, if the restaurant's open till 10 p.m., things are okay. At 10:01, something mysteriously happens. And the answer from our medical officer of health was, people make bad decisions later on in the evenings. And I really don't understand what that means, but one thing I can tell you for certain, that's not scientific. I have never seen a study done on the decision making of people who drink alcohol or don't drink alcohol and why we need to close restaurants. And I certainly don't understand why 10 people is safe and 11 is not safe.
And you know, Carmine, I think what's added to the heartbreak here is that this is 28 days. This is the make or break period for many retailers, the Christmas shopping season. And the only one I really see laughing to the bank is that multi-billionaire Jeff Bezos.
Well, it's no secret. I think Jeff is doing pretty well. I think he's going to do much better. I've seen my Amazon delivery guy more than I've seen my son during the holidays. But the reality is, David, it's no laughing matter. These businesses are suffering. Millions of jobs will be lost forever, never to return. The economy will never be the same, no matter what happens from here on in. So we've got to put a stop to this. My fear is that between today and our Thursday council meeting, my colleagues at Regional Council are going to be afraid to make the right decision. They're going to err on the side of caution without substance, and they're going to move for a lockdown in York Region. Mark my words.
Carmine, I hope this doesn't happen. We'll see what happens on Thursday. And folks, right now...
And by the way, David, I'm going to be pushing for complete open. Back to regular hours. If they want to use the protocol of wearing masks and 2 meter separation of tables and chairs and all that stuff, that's fantastic. If it makes them feel better, go ahead. The science doesn't support it, but go ahead and do that. But at least let the businesses make money so they can feed their families.
Well, let's hope at least in York Region, saner heads prevail. And let's hope Premier Ford remembers what he ran on back in 2018. Do you remember that slogan, folks? Ontario, open for business. For Rebel News, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Well, folks, bringing you the other side of the story does not come cheap. Sometimes we need security in order to bring you the other side of the story because there are forces afoot that don't want us to bring you the other side of the story. If you can, please go to journalistdefensefund.com. That's journalistdefensefund.com and make a donation.